In this tutorial, I want to introduce the concept of model space and paper space. You will be using both to construct your final presentation files. So right now, I am in model space, and you can see that because in the lower left-hand corner, the tab states model. And this is where we have been doing all of our drawings, and this is where you model everything in AutoCAD. And model means anything that is drawn in 2D or in 3D. It's the model space. It extends infinitely. So that's really all there is to know about that in general terms. Now, I'm going to talk to you about paper space. Paper space, that's the old term, and now it's referred to as layouts. When you start a new drawing, if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see two tabs. And one of them says layout 1, the other is layout 2. These are just default tabs that are included in every single AutoCAD drawing that you start. And the layouts are the paper spaces. And we use the paper space, the layout, to compose our final drawings. So to show you how this works, I'm just going to draw a circle here for a moment in model space. And I could start it at 0, 0. And I'll make this circle, let's say 20 feet in diameter or 20 foot. I'll do a 10-foot radius. That'll give me a 10-foot diameter. And I'm going to zoom extents. So that's the circle I have. Now I'm going to switch over to layout 1. When I click on layout 1, this is switching me over into paper space. And you can see that there is a paper setup. And in this layout, a viewport, which is this here, has been created by default. And what the viewport is doing is it's showing me everything that I would have in my model space. And this is why I drew the circle so that I would be able to see something in there. So this viewport is nothing more than a window into my model space. So from paper space, I can view model space. Now, what I can do is I can double click inside of this viewport. And when I double click, I am now in model space and I'm accessing model space through paper space. And this is what's referred to as a floating model space window. And I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can pan, and I could continue to draw. But I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to go back to model space and add more to my drawing as I need to. But I just wanted to show you how to access it. So this is floating model space, and you can see around that viewport, it is now a bold line. To get out of model space and to go back into paper space, I just need to take my cursor, move it outside of the viewport, and when it changes to this arrow, then I know I can double click anywhere out here. And when I do that, I am now back in paper space. And when I pan and zoom, I am doing that in paper space. So that's one way to do it. Double click to go into floating model space, and then double click outside of it to get back to paper space. What you could also do is you can come down here to your drawing aids, and right now where it says paper, it basically lets me know that I am in paper space. But if I click on that, I am now toggled into my model space, and it says model down at the bottom. And if I click on model, it'll toggle me back to paper space. So a couple of ways of doing that. So that's model space and paper space. And the reason these are called floating viewports is because I can have one sit on top of another. So this one was constructed by default, and I can take this and I can make it bigger or smaller. And I'm going to create another one. And I'm going to use the command mview, enter, and I'm going to draw one like this so that it overlaps. And I'm also going to have it go outside of my sheet because I want you to see that it's floating, meaning I can put it anywhere. So if I zoom out, and now I'm just going to type M for move and enter, I can move a viewport and enter to any location on the screen. But I know that I want to keep everything inside of that paper, and I will do that when it comes time to put the presentation drawings together. But this is just a really quick intro into model space and paper space. And now I'm going to switch from paper space into floating model space. And I'm just going to click on the icon down here. And then it's going to take me into model space. But I have two views, two floating viewports. And it takes me into the most current one. But I can also click over here, and now it takes me into that viewport. If I click somewhere in the middle where they overlap, I don't know what results I'm going to get. It may not work. So I'm always careful to click away from any overlapping views. And then I double click outside. And then with this viewport, I can also change the size of it just by doing this, clicking and dragging my grips. And then I'll type M, enter, so I can move it. And I can place it next to the other one like that. And then I tap the escape key to continue. So this is setting up viewports. And then if I select the viewport, you can see there's a drop down here. And if I click on that drop down, this will allow me to set the viewport to a specific scale. But I don't do it this way because if I go to, let's say, 1/4 inch, it changes the size of the viewport as well as updating the scale. So I don't do it that way. I'm going to undo. And I go into the floating model space like this. And then I come down here to my drawing aids and I click right here where it says adjust the scale. Give that a click. And now I'm going to change that to 1/4 inch, for example. And when I do that, you'll see that it has adjusted and it is now set to a 1/4 inch. And if I wanted to, I can change that to any other scale right now. So I'll try 1/8 inch. And notice how now it changes. And what I can do now is I can pan my drawing around and place it anywhere within that viewport. I'm just panning the view. I am not moving the drawing. This is the same as panning in model space. So I'm just trying to get everything to fit inside of that floating model space viewport. And I have it set to an 1/8 inch. Now, if I use my wheel mouse and I zoom in and out, that changes the scale. So if I don't want the scale to change, I'll come back down here. I will set it to the 1/8 inch where I had it, and then I'm going to lock it. And when I lock that scale, notice how I'm still in the floating model space viewport. If I zoom in, notice how it is not changing the scale of the viewport. It's actually zooming me in as if I were in paper space. If I go over to this viewport, which I don't have locked in, watch what happens when I zoom in and when I zoom out. And I can still pan, but notice the difference. This one is not locked to the scale. I click over here, this one is, zoom in and out, and notice how that changes in paper space. So we're going to be locking viewports, but I don't lock them until the end when I know that I have the scale all set up. And then what I prefer to do is set it to the appropriate scale. And then I'm going to click outside of it. And then I can take my grips. I can click on the viewport and then I can click on the grips here and bring them in. And when I do this, I prefer to turn off my object snaps because sometimes when you float it along the edge here, it will snap back to that nearest endpoint, which means nothing's going to change. So if I click now, in my case it did, but sometimes when you're really close to that endpoint, it just picks up the nearest endpoint and it puts it right back where you had it going. So that could be problematic. So just be mindful of that. So I'm going to take my object snaps, turn those off, and then I'm also going to turn off polar. And I can make this viewport any size I want, but I establish the scale of the viewport first, then I fix the size. So that's a really quick intro, tapping the escape key here, very quick intro into model space and paper space and the concept of floating model space. So um, real quick, I'll go back to model space here. And if I decide I want to draw some more objects like this, maybe another line over here, and I go back to my layout, you'll see how it updates there as well. And I can have the same object in two separate viewports, and I can always have a lot of information in model space and create different viewports for each section of my drawing. a lot of different ways to do it. And the one thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to take full advantage of model space and paper space, and we're also going to be taking full advantage of external references. So in the presentation files, you're going to be externally referencing everything into a new drawing. And then from there, we're going to set up the scales and get everything going. And we're going to also set up the right size paper, because right now this one is defaulting to 8.5 by 11. So all that's coming. This was just a way to give you a quick overview of model space and paper space, or again, layouts as they're now known. All right, go back to model space here, and time to put the presentation file together. Thank you.